kama kawaida, Wednesdays we have our clinic. The clinic ya mfuko, my friend, will get into a very interesting discussion. Have you ever had to negotiate for your salary? Hiyo inakuwaga kazi ngumu, my friend. Sometimes, you know, you have that which you have planned in your mind. Nikiingia kwa hiyo office, this is what I will tell them, this is what I will say, and then you get in there and then the words refuse to come out. It can be one of the most hardest things to do. And so even as we kick off into this month of June, we'll be focusing on money and employment and issues around that. And today we'll be talking about negotiating for your salary. How do you do that? When do you do that? Also, we have quite a bit on the Madaraka feat marked with pomp and color. Lots of pictures to go with that as well. You can find out what happened, what the president said. There's something here also, Ruto calls to uphold a rule of law. You can also take a look at that story. So there's quite a bit in the local dailies today about the 58th Madaraka Day that was celebrated yesterday. Lots of pictures to go along with that. And, you know, some of the performances and the crowds in the streets, you need to take a look at that. Also, last moments of murdered Chantel. This is a story that was carried in the dailies yesterday, a continuation today, page 14. It says witnesses say a light-skinned woman left with Chantel holding her hand between 3 and 4 p.m. Fresh details on the abduction and killing of 8-year-old Chantel have emerged, indicating the girl was taken by a light-skinned woman as she played with other children outside her parents' home in Kitengela. You can take a look at that story, page 14, Daily Nation newspaper. Looking at other stories making headlines, there's quite a bit from the editorials, but we get to the pullouts. First pullout is motoring. If you love cars, check out this one. Looking for a crossover SUV, and there's details about some of the options available. You can take a look at that. Second pullout is parenting, talking about long-distance parenting. Arafa Ahmed, 39, left her children in Kenya in search of greener pastures in Dubai. Ooh. How is that going on for her? You can take a look at that. Other articles in the parenting pullout. My marriage is breaking because of my rude wife. What? I think that's what we call a rude awakening, my friend. Take a look at that and find out what Pastor Philip Kitoto has to say about that issue. Lessons I learned from long-distance parenting. You can take a look at that as well. And then in the back pages of the Daily Nation newspaper today, no date set for second COVID shots. Shortage has been occasioned by the ban on exports by the Indian manufacturer. Also, Turkish intelligence officials admit kidnapping exiled billionaire cleric's relative in Nairobi. And in sports, FKF Premier League, Tusker surge ahead as KCB, Ingwe and Gore keep pace. And then also, hero of Kenya's hockey golden age leaves huge footprints on the sands of time. You can read his inspiring story right there. And we are still counting down to Eldoret City Marathon. 4 days to go. Registration for the race is closing today. Kama ulikuwa unafikiria kukimbia Eldoret, you had better register today. Those are some of the key stories you will find in the local dailies today. Grab a copy, keep yourself informed on what's happening both locally and also internationally. Remember, as you do so, grab some Eden tea. Finest garden tea on the market, comes to you in different flavors: Eden green tea, Eden purple tea, Eden lemon tea, Eden ginger tea, and Eden premium tea. Packaging is excellent, retaining the freshness and the quality and the aroma of the tea. If you haven't tried it, please try it. Eden tea reminding us that together we will stop the spread of the coronavirus by washing our hands with soap and running water, putting on our face masks, maintaining interpersonal distance. Eden tea is available at leading supermarkets at affordable prices. Try it out today. You will love it. Well, the question is, how do you negotiate for your salary? That's what we are getting into next on the Financial Clinic. Clinic imefunguliwa, my friend. Clinic ya mfuko. Kama kawaida, bench nimeweka nje. Nimeipanguza na nimeisanitize. Mkae pole pole, msisukumane. We have a lot we want to talk about, and I know today pengine mtakuwa na maswali mingi as we talk about just how do you negotiate for your salary. I've got two amazing guests in studio with me today via Zoom. We have got Irene Gitangu, insurance consultant and financial advisor. Irene, how are you doing?
Very well, Pastor James.
Karibu sana. It's good to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. We also have Maggie Ireri, CEO at Tifa Research. Maggie, how are you doing?
Good morning, James. Good morning, Irene. Great to be here.
Karibuni sana. So, one of the things I keep hearing about when we talk about salary negotiations is the importance of knowing your value. I keep hearing, know your value, know your value. How do I know my value and why is that important? Maybe I can begin with you, Maggie.
I think I'll throw back the question to you, then answer it. How can you negotiate and you don't know your value? I think that's how we should be thinking, because if you're going for an interview, and I'm assuming it could be either the first interview or for a job where you're joining, or it could be that you're already in an organization and you're going for a salary negotiation.
Yes.
When you get to the panel or the person you're talking to, you must know what you're worth. You have X number of years experience. This is how you performed in the past, and you're the best person for the job, and if they don't pay you well, then they're going to be missing out. You need to know your value and articulate it very confidently.
You know, I find that this is a very hard question for many people, because even when people go for interviews, usually people talk about what the organization can do for them instead of saying what value they carry and how they can benefit the organization. You know, so how does somebody get to that place where they can clearly articulate, Irene, what their value is? Knowing what I have is one thing, but being able to communicate it properly is another thing. Because sometimes I also see, Irene, people who may not have much, but they know how to talk, and they end up getting, you know, a salary increment or a promotion just because they know how to clearly articulate what they're thinking. So how do I get to that place?
Basically, you need to know exactly what you have different. What is it that you have different from your research, as Maggie has mentioned? From your research, you should be able to know from now what the industry is offering or what is already available in the industry. What is that extra thing about you that you're going to bring to the table that is going to help you push the envelope? What makes you different? Yeah.
Why is this question always hard to answer when somebody goes for an interview and somebody is asked, you know, how much are you looking for? A lot of people have asked me, even when I do this show, and sometimes people send in prayer requests in the morning when we are doing prayer. Sometimes I get those questions. You know, they're asked, I'm going for an interview and I know they're going to ask me how much I want. I don't know what to tell them. I feel like if I tell them this, it's too much. If I tell them this is too little. So Maggie, that question is very uncomfortable. How does somebody answer that question?
Okay, you know, our culture, and I don't know that this is the way we were educated, I think we feel embarrassed asking for money.
Yes.
Let's start from there. And by the time you're going for the interview, you've not even done enough research to understand for that particular role, what is the salary paid? Because you need to be checking maybe in the industry, how do they pay? Then when you get there, most people feel embarrassed. And I don't know why you feel embarrassed, because at the end of the day, you are going to be paid for a job done.
Yeah.
So why should you be embarrassed asking? Let me even give you another statistic. It is even worse for women. Women, there are more men who are able to confidently articulate the salary they want than women. Why? Because sometimes we women feel shy to ask for money. And that is and that is what the employer on the other side is hoping for. Because if they feel that you're not confident, you're not asking for your figure, they will give you the figure they want. And you know, you'll be fumbling, like, okay. So for me, I just conclude it's an issue of lack of preparedness, lack of desperation, and also our culture as Kenyans. We don't want to ask. We don't want to make bold and audacious requests. I mean, I can go to God and tell him, God, I want to be paid 300,000. You pray. Hey, you go for the interview, you keep quiet. Surely, you have to act according to your prayer and say, you know what, I'm asking God, and I go there, God, give me confidence because I'm going to ask for it very, very articulately.
I like that. We have prayed for 3,000. When we get there, we just say, okay, hata kama ni 80 Nisa. Nisa is better than nothing. Sometimes, Irene, when you go for some of these interviews, one of the questions that comes is, what were you earning in your former place of work? I keep thinking, is that a trick question? How do you answer that question? What if where you were working before you felt like they were not paying you according to your value. And so another opportunity has arisen, and here you are for the interview, and they're referring you back to where you were and how you were earning. How do you answer that question?
First of all, it's good to understand that by the time they're asking you this question, it's probably because through the interview, you've already given the value that you're worth. But times it's not understood. Maybe where you're coming from was maybe your startup level.
Yeah.
But give your performance through the duration that you were there before you think of transitioning to another place, which is now the new place. Do you know, how do you compare the two? So first of all, I think the former salary, what you were getting before, showed the kind of person you are. Because you see, most people will be told, this is, maybe you're coming in at an entry level, there's a salary for the entry level. Were you humble enough to take that up while you learn on the job, or while you get the experience to be able now to ask for the actual value, for your actual value, where now it boils down to, at the end of the day, what is your value? Because you must have come to a realization about your value for you to think of transitioning to this new place where you're now coming to ask for a new pay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. What about the whole issue of emotions? Maggie, money has got emotions. I mean, we get so emotional when we talk about money. And sometimes I see people trying to appeal to the emotional aspect when you are negotiating for your salary. Is that a good direction to go, or is that a direction one needs to avoid completely?
So let's start with emotions. An employer wants to hire a balanced individual who will not bring emotions to the workplace. Now, if at the salary negotiation you're becoming emotional, it's an indication of what to expect. So the kind of emotions that people bring to the interview, which are wrong, is that, let's say, and here I'm giving examples of things that I've seen. Let's say I have children.
Yeah.
I start saying, "Oh yeah, my children." You know, that's an emotion.
Yeah.
Somebody says, maybe based on what you're saying, but on your previous job, you said that you are earning, let's say, 10,000, and you're asking for 100,000. You start saying, "Oh yeah, my boss was unfair, the organization was unfair." You know, all those emotions, put them aside. And that's why it is better when you go for a salary negotiation, you are very clear, and it's a factual discussion. You're saying, this is my years of experience, this is the value I bring to the table, this is how much the industry pays, this is what I want to be paid. Leave the emotions out, because when we get emotional, our ability to negotiate, articulate, and even appear to be the right candidate will diminish. So keep it factual. I've also seen people who come to an interview and they say, I want between, let's say, 30 and 40,000. And you tell them, no, you're single. They say, yeah. You know, you're trying to irritate them. Why do you need so much money yet you're single? And they say, no, I agree, I am single, but my CV actually demonstrates I have the ability to do the job. So they're moving away from even the interviewers are trying to bring emotions and other stuff into the conversation, and they are still sticking to the list that they wrote, and they're saying, this is what I am worth, this is my value, etc. So don't get emotional, and assuming that the employer offers you such a bad salary at the interview, don't bang your table or, you know, your face looks upset. Just say, you know what, thank you very much. I appreciate that I've gone this part in terms of interview. I've gotten to the part of the salary negotiation. I think your organization is fantastic, but the salary you're offering me, I cannot take it because I'm worth more, but I really thank you. You see, you're not being emotional. You're being very professional and focused.
So it's also acceptable to walk away, because sometimes we feel like if I walk away from this opportunity, I may never get another one. So you can't walk away. You can't walk away.
Yes, let me give you an example of myself. And there's one year I went for 3 interviews. 3 when I was young, maybe 15 years ago. 3 organizations. But in my mind, I knew I wanted this figure as a salary. Those organizations were big. One was a multinational, one was a big company in Kenya, and the other was a bank. Because of the bank, they were telling me, you know, when you come here, loans are, the interest rates in the market is, let's say, 14%, we'll give you a 6.
Yes.
But I told myself, you know what, this is the salary I want. And every time I kept on competing, what I needed to move to a new job, it did not make sense because I cannot move from one job to go to another job and my income doesn't change. So I actually painfully said no, and I never moved. 3 jobs in 1 week. That was, it was such a coincidence, and I didn't go. I stayed where I was.
Okay. Irene, there's somebody's asking back on the whole issue of how much were you earning at your previous job? Somebody's asking, is it okay to lie? Since sometimes they don't check some of these things. Is it okay to lie and say, I was earning 80, but I say, what do you call it, 150?
Okay, let me use an example of someone I actually know. I know someone who was earning around 75,000. When they went for an interview, they were asked how much they were earning, and they said double the amount they were earning.
Yeah.
So by the time they were done with the negotiation, they actually got triple what they were earning, what they said they were earning. So if you ask me, I think it all boils down to the confidence. And the confidence here is coming again from what you think your value is. Because I wouldn't say it's right to lie, but it really boils down to how you throw it out there. Because this is one person, if you ask me, was ready to walk away, was sort of gambling with the whole situation. It's good to be honest as you can be, but sometimes you just flow with how the situation is like, because sometimes if we were to go with the what you were earning before, and that was matched or it was looked at, then it will bring a lot of problems for you. So again, it boils down to what you think your value is, and follow your intuition, follow your heart.
Okay. Great. If you have any questions for us today, the SMS line is 20316. WhatsApp number is 0786316 We are looking at salary negotiations. Shortly, we'll talk about the workplace setting. You know, you're not looking for a job. It's not an interview. You're already working in this organization. What is the best time to negotiate for your salary? Renegotiate your salary. We'll look at that and also probably look at some of the common mistakes people make when they're trying to do that. Once again, 20316 SMS, WhatsApp 0786316316. It's the Financial Clinic. Today we look at salary negotiations. I'm hanging out with Irene Gitangu, insurance consultant and financial advisor, and Maggie Reri, CEO at Tifa Research. Your comments are coming in. This one is from Bob in South Sea. You say the basis of justifying your salary request is your previous salary in the previous job, your relevant years of experience, and salary progression, e.g. annual performance based increments of about 20%, and also professional and academic qualifications. And you say one needs to research on the company performance to benchmark salary justification. Thank you for that one. Before we talk about those who are already employed and they're trying to renegotiate their salary, there's a question here from Kevin in Kiamba. Kevin is asking, is it advisable to tell the person who's looking to employ you your weaknesses, even as you do that job interview, because he's probably thinking if you tell him your weaknesses, your value is going down. Is it advisable to share your weaknesses? Maggie, you want to take that?
Yes, I can. That is a very common question in interviews. They ask you, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Now, if you say none, that you do not have any weakness, of course that is not correct. It looks like you're not saying the truth. So usually it is better to identify weaknesses that are potential strengths. Let me give you an example. You could say one of my weaknesses is that when I focus on something, I focus on it so much that I even work day and night to deliver it. The weakness is that I don't sleep enough and I get tired. But you already talked about the way you're hardworking. The other thing you can say is that one of my weaknesses, when I'm given a task, I'm so passionate about it, I feel very bad when I don't achieve it. So I therefore push myself. So you're talking about a weakness, but you're also articulating a value that would be ideal for the organization. So don't say things that sometimes I go to work late, sometimes I get angry. No. Package your strengths in such a way that there are potential opportunities for the organization if only the weakness can be harnessed. So I would say please be careful what you say in an interview. Package your business.
Okay. So, Irene, what about that person who's already employed, but they think it's time for me to renegotiate my salary? At what point is it a good time to renegotiate your salary for those who are already employed?
Okay. When it comes to the people who are already employed, it goes with performance. Sometimes you peg your increment to maybe performance in terms of KPI. You can negotiate it. For instance, if I meet my KPI, maybe I could get, you can even move towards the side of ownership. If I perform like this, if I get this KPI, I can get maybe this percentage of shares in the company. Or you can negotiate in terms of growth plan or career progression. So it's basically, again, going back to the basic, the perks that are already available for you. Because you might find, again, given the position that you're applying for, there could be other things which are tagged to this position.
Yeah.
Maybe the extra benefits like travel, there's housing, there's pension, there's medical, there's all those things that you need to put to consideration. But at the end of the day, everything you can be based on performance on your the recent years or the past, in your past in the same organization.
Okay. I'm just wondering, sometimes you find that you're given more responsibilities, or your responsibilities are changed. And so it's not really what your contract said. This is your position. This is what you're going to do. These are your responsibilities. A bit more is added, or things are shifted, whereby slowly you find yourself, okay, when I look at my contract and my JD and what I'm doing currently, it's not the same thing. I'm just wondering, is that a good space also to sit down and relook at things and say, okay, we need to talk about this now?
Oh, absolutely. Because the reason why I think that would work for you is depending now again on your perspective, because you can choose to look at it as an opportunity for growth. Because regardless of what you've been doing before, if what has been put on the table for you to do will actually help you progress in your career or in your growth plan, then by all means, please go for it. Because even if it doesn't pay for it at that point, somewhere along the way in your journey, in your career, you'll actually need this experience. So you might pay for the package that you already have, and then maybe use the same experience that you're going to earn from taking up that job or the extra duties that have been handed down to you, and then maybe use it to negotiate for your next place. Because it's always about progression. It's how you, So even if you won't be there for long, if you won't be rewarded for that, at some point you eventually need this, and you might use it to negotiate to push your envelope.
Maggie, I like what Irene is saying, because I've seen situations, even right here where I work, where somebody's given something extra to do, but they refuse, and the tagline is always, "It's not in my JD," and they walk away. You know, what's the bad side of having that kind of an attitude?
So I agree 100% with what Irene is saying. And the question is, when you have extra tasks, is it an opportunity or is it a burden? And that's what we need to be very clear. In a situation where it's a very competitive market, if we go out in the streets, people are looking for jobs. In a very, very competitive industry, it is advantageous to take on additional tasks because it gives you more experience. In fact, if that happened to me, I would be saying, although my title is executive, my scope of work has expanded to a point where I am taking on managerial duties, but I am not a manager. That is fantastic for salary negotiations, and also fantastic for interviews, assuming that you want to go out to another job. Because when we are being asked questions, what you currently do, you say, this is my job description, but over and above that, I do the following. And why do I do that? Because I want to get experience, and also because I believe my boss trusts me. Are you seeing the way you turn the conversation from a negative perspective to a positive? And as Irene indicated, at the right time, whether it's going to be at the appraisal meetings or at the performance review sessions, you can then articulate yourself and say, this is what I've been doing. And what do I need to do for 1A, to get a pay raise, or 2, to get a promotion? So you're in a conversation with your line manager and they're aware, or you're creating awareness to them that you're doing much more. Now, that kind of employee who engages their employer or their line manager in that way is perceived to be more mature, more responsible, and they have the potential to become a manager or to even move to a higher level.
There are those instances, Irene, where you find yourself, you remember earlier on I was saying, there are people who have been given the gift of gab. They can talk themselves out of anything, or they can talk themselves into anything. In fact, I had such a friend. Every interview he went for, he got jobs he was not even qualified for. And I kept wondering, how do you do it? So what happens when you realize that there's somebody who's not really performing, yet they earn more than you? It's like you're doing most of the work, but they're getting the glory. How do you handle a situation like that in the workspace? Do you renegotiate for your pay, or how do you navigate through that?
What happens is every day you wake up, you make it your business to know what is happening in the industry. So you realize it's not every day that will be Christmas for you. And that is very okay. It's very normal. It's something that we should all expect as long as you're working, especially in a corporate. So what do you do about it? You keep growing. You keep doing things which are going to build your skills, that are going to improve your skills, what you already know. You can never learn enough. So what you do is sometimes there's nothing you can do. Like Mikey mentioned earlier, you can't bring feelings to your workplace. So you try to be as objective as you can be. So if you realize this is happening, just do what you need to do, perfect your skills, or rather develop your skills. And then at the end of the day, if you feel where you are, you're not gratified, you're not getting the gratification that you wake up every day for, there's always competition. You can always look around, what else is there? Where do you feel like it's more competitive? Then go there. Because at the end of the day, they always tell us, if you feel like you're the sharpest fish in that pond, you need to jump into the ocean. So at that point, you feel like what you're doing is not being rewarded. Then please keep your eyes open, keep your ears open. There's always more challenge out there. Challenge yourself to go out there and go get it, because there's always more outside. But you really need to not put your everything into money, because at the end of the day, places you go, you get the money you want, but are you getting the satisfaction that comes with the job that you're up to? Because at the end of the day, if you don't feel like you're fulfilling your purpose, because we believe we live life on purpose. If you feel like out there you get a little more, but you're not gratified, you don't feel like this is giving glory back to God, you might choose to settle and just move with it. Or if you feel like you might get more gratification outside, then by all means, source out to the competition.
I like what you're saying, because I've seen situations where somebody that doesn't consider the company culture where they're working, and they're looking at an opportunity out there. It's paying a little bit more, and they decide to go there. In fact, I remember one time I had a colleague who did that. He jumped out of where we were, went somewhere else. He didn't even stay there for 3 months. He came back because he was telling me the money was good, but the culture in that company, I'd rather be here where I'm being paid slightly less, but I'm working with people who are sober, people who behave like human beings, not like animals, you know. And I thought that was really, really interesting. Maggie, I have a question for you. We'll answer this shortly. Somebody's asking, what do you do in cases where if you ask for a raise, you risk getting fired? As in, there's never a pay rise in this organization, even for people who've been working 10 years, 20 years. Pahali ulianzia ndio unakaaga tu hapo. You know, there's always that threat if you ask for a salary raise is, unajua ni watu wangapi wanatafuta hii kazi yako? You know, if you're not comfortable with this, ship out, somebody else is ready. We have a line of people waiting to fill this position. How do you handle that kind of a working environment. It's about 12 minutes before we get to 8. You have 12 minutes to ask a question. Actually, you have like 6 minutes to ask your questions. If you have any, 20316 SMS line, WhatsApp number 0786316316. This morning, it's the Financial Clinic salary negotiations is what we're talking about. Hanging out with Maggie Ireri, CEO at Tifa Research, and Irene Gitangu, insurance consultant and financial advisor. So, Maggie, I had a question for you. What do you do in cases where you're so afraid to ask for a salary increment because there's always the threat of being fired because kuna watu huku nje wanangojea kazi yako, and you know, this organization, they add nothing to your salary. You've been there 10 years. It's still the same salary you came in at. How do you handle that?
I also want to add another complication to that. Because there are other organizations where, let's say you joined as a customer care rep at a call center, that is the job, your salary will remain the same. So it doesn't have to be negative, you'll be fired. It's just that that's how the job is. And there are situations where you get to, you find that regardless of what I do, what I say, or how hard I lobby, my salary will not increase. And that is the situation, and that is the reality. So what is the option? Do you quit your job? No way, you don't quit your job. You cannot quit your job without a plan. So what I normally recommend to people is that when you get into the end of the ceiling in the organization, let me call it that, because of various positive or negative reasons, you need to come up with a new plan for your life.
Okay.
So the first thing I would recommend is that you do some research about, with my current qualifications, which industry can I fit in? Am I really qualified? Because some people also have a sense of overqualification. You sit in an organization and say, I work very hard and I'm paid little money. But if you to do a bit of research, you may realize that there are some things that you're lacking that could stop you from actually being mobile and exiting the organization. So any opportunity that you're thinking about, whether externally or internally, do you qualify? Now, after that, I suggest you sit down with a mentor, somebody who is objective, not somebody who will tell you, you just go and quit your job. Explain to them, this is my qualification, this is what the industry is asking, and this, I need to get to a different organization or more money. The mentor who is experienced, mature, don't go to a friend, don't go to an agent, go to somebody who's older and sober, and they will tell you what are the pros and cons, and then commit to a plan. Meaning, as in you identify that you have to go back to school or you have to do ABCD, commit to a plan. If the plan is going to take a year, please remain at that job and behave like Joseph in the Bible. Remember, he was in prison, he worked hard, he supported the prison warden or the head there, and eventually he got out. You must adhere to the organization policy. You should not be complaining. After all, you've already come up with a plan, and that plan should tell you that after 1 year, you'll have done A, B, C, D for yourself. You'll have done A, B, C, D that will help you become a more attractive candidate. Then you can start applying for jobs externally. But I find it very, very wrong for an employee who's unhappy to remain in an organization, but they spend the whole day complaining. Don't spend the whole day complaining. Spend the day planning how you're going to get out of there in a positive way. And the day you do it honorable. Go and tell your boss, thank you very much. I'll give you a notice period. Don't say, these guys have been so bad to me for the last 10 years, you walk away. Give you a notice period, hand over properly, and go to the new organization.
Still on that question, Maggie, somebody is asking, how do I know what the market is currently paying for my position or the kind of work I do? Where do I get that information? The market rates?
You can, I mean, for instance, I can talk about my industry. If I socialize enough with people, I'll know. If I go to the banking industry, if I sit with a banker, I can ask. So I think research is not going to the desktop and look. Call people, talk to people. If they say they don't know, tell them to find out. Actually, if you call somebody who's 5 or 10 years older than you, they have seen it all, they have more information, they'll actually be able to give you this information.
Okay. Let's go to Irene even as we finish because we are almost out of time. Irene, there are these situations where you negotiate and they tell you, know what, where we are right now, we can't pay you that, you're still beginning. We will revisit this issue after 6 months. 6 months in Aisha, no conversation. 1 year in Aisha, no conversation. 2 years down the line, you're still hanging on to a promise that has never been fulfilled. Do you bail out? Do you renegotiate, keep renegotiating? How do you handle that? Because there are some organizations that they're very good at giving you promises. lakini the fulfillment of those promises never comes to pass.
Okay. When you're going in for an interview, I'm assuming at this point you had already done your research to know whether this is a startup or it's an already well-established organization. So already gives you the base just to know, to have a rough idea where you stand. So once you do your negotiations and let's say you've already gotten, you're signing your contract, it would be wise to have these conditions or these promises documented. Because if you document it, it never happened. It's as simple as that. So when it's documented, and then of course you make sure your performance keeps up with the whole negotiation of maybe the amount you're going for. Then at the end of the day, at the end of that period, say you said in 2 years I'll get this increment, you can always go back to the agreement where you wrote, where you documented this information, where the promises were made, and then that can be revisited from that point of view.
Okay. One more. People keep asking questions when we are just about to finish. This one says, there's a person who works at a school as an ICT officer. He helped out when they did not have a driver, but since then, they keep taking advantage of him. Staff turnover is high in this organization, and so he's always being asked to go behind the wheel and do the driving work plus his work. Lakini kamshahara ni kale kale. Maggie, what does he do? Does he drive away?
You know, me, I'm an optimist. I always ask myself, is the glass half full or half empty? In life, I have decided to be a positive person. So I feel for the ICT officer, I feel for him. And he's actually doing much more than he should be doing. My recommendation would be, can he go and have a conversation with these people? Just communicate and say, when I'm out of my workstation, the following things go wrong. Or there's a risk of ABC happening, because an IT person is in charge of the system. He could also articulate the risks of him being out of the office instead of supporting the place, the systems, and then recommend that they kindly get another person to be sharing the duties of driving around. As he does that, he should do it in a very positive way, because at the end of, for me, I feel that it's an opportunity for him to communicate very well and articulate himself.
Okay. Ladies, asanteni sana. That has been an enriching conversation. Unfortunately, I am out of time, but we will definitely pick up this conversation again, because watu sasa ndio wameamka, ndio wanaanza kuuliza maswali, lakini our time is up. Irene, thank you so much. Maggie, thank you so much. May the Lord bless you. Clinic imefungwa, my friend. Baka next week. Kama ulikuja kama umechelewa usijali, next week we will be right here to continue with this discussion. Like I said, this week we are focusing on issues, money for the people who are employed. That's all the time we have for today. Have yourselves a great day. God bless you.
For this and more of our shows, log on to www.familymediaonline.com to enjoy a wide variety of programs, from current affairs to testimonials and features, pastoral and inspirational shows, kids entertainment, and so much more. Also stream live on www.familymedia.tv.